Okay, Jamie, I'm going to go ahead and get started.
Okay, sounds good.
Good afternoon. I'll give everybody just a second to kind of get in, and I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody as well. Okay. Out of respect for everybody's time, I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Beth Jones, and I'm the Assistant City Manager and City Engineer for Bel Air. This is a pre-submittal meeting regarding our request for qualifications for a program management for our regional RDIP program. So let me kind of share my screen real quick and help to give you a better idea of what it is that we need and what we're looking for. So the Cypress Ditch and Detention Project is kind of a $110 million project that we have been spearheading for a number of years. Bel Air is 95% in the floodplain and has suffered from both Tax Day and Memorial Day and Harvey. So in order for us to become more resilient with flooding, we need to improve the Cypress Ditch. And so we really have worked diligently to spearhead this project. And my hope is that in giving you a better understanding of what it is we're trying to accomplish, you'll be able to craft your submittals in a more appropriate fashion. My intention of what I share today during this meeting is to be extra information that you wouldn't necessarily have gleaned from the RFQ request. So it's a little bit of project history and kind of some better knowledge of what it is we're trying to accomplish. So the Cypress Ditch is actually not located inside Bel Air city limits. It is a City of Houston right-of-way property, and Bel Air has paid for all of the upfront engineering costs in order to improve Cypress Ditch. It will be within the banks of, within the right-of-way, the existing right-of-way of Cypress Ditch. We will look to increase the side slopes, allowing for increased flow through the ditch. And we will provide what we call the North Detention Pond and South Detention Pond to not have adverse impacts on Brays Bayou. The interesting dynamic, one of the many interesting dynamics of this project is that we're working with Houston to improve one of their facilities that directly impacts all of our Bel Air residents in the greater region, because this also drains the Gulfton area. We also worked with the City of Houston on a land swap. These south portion, these tracks right here, were City of Houston properties, and we entered into an agreement with the City of Houston to acquire those properties, and in exchange, the City of Bel Air transferred our Rufino landfill to them in order for them to further some of their drainage programs. Also part of that agreement was the ability for Bel Air to send our wastewater flows to the Southwest Wastewater Treatment Plant in Houston. This north track, this is the area we call the North Ponds. Existing right now is our wastewater treatment plant and our public works laydown yard. Those will be decommissioned and demolished in order for us to use that land for detention. So when we talk about what this program is, it's not just a drainage program, although largely it is. There will be some wastewater components to it because we will need to tie into the Houston plant. So we will need to repurpose an existing lift station and retrofit it and upsize it potentially, and build a force main from the existing wastewater treatment plant down south to the Southwest Wastewater Treatment Plant. Part of this project will be coordinating with Houston and making sure that we have all the right permits and permissions and moving that forward. We do have two existing engineers on contract. Ardura is providing our drainage engineering, and HDR has been doing our wastewater work. So the program management would be overseeing those two contractors. Also, a little better understanding of what it is we're looking for is this is staff augmentation. This large scale project is probably a good 3 to 5 year push from Bel Air. And so it was our leadership's decision and our council's decision not to hire full-time employees to staff this for what is conceptually a short duration, but instead to staff augment. So that is why we're putting out this RFQ, is to provide the staffing necessary to successfully deliver these projects. So we have the construction, the demolition of whatever's existing out on the south tracks, as well as the north tracks, connecting the wastewater from our soon to be decommissioned and demolished wastewater treatment plant and connect to the Southwest wastewater treatment plant, and then the construction of Cypress Ditch. So when we talk about what it is we need, we're looking for at least somebody to be in office at City Hall. Who specifically, that would ideally be our main project contact. The ideal situation is that I walk down the hall and I get to pop in and ask any questions that I need, or our capital projects and grants manager, that we really are working together as a cohesive team, but that the heavy lift is being taken care of by the project management team. Some of the potential things that we see on the horizon that we need support with is plain project management. There's several projects within this program, and ensuring that all of them are on time, on budget, and working with city staff to ensure that we have the funding aligned at the right time. So the project management of it, given the nature of this project, there's a lot of coordination with the city of Houston because it is their asset at this point in time. And we are working with Harris County Flood Control to set up ILAs so that once Bel Air constructs and builds this Cypress Ditch to flood control standards, that flood control will take over the ownership and maintenance of the channel. So working with those interlocals and making sure that those agreements are in order and that we are doing everything in accordance to what flood control needs. Also, this ditch goes under 610, so coordinating with TxDOT and hoping to move forward the improvements within their infrastructure to help flooding in Bel Air. So working with TxDOT, there is a high likelihood that we may need a Corps permit for this. So facilitation and coordination with the Army Corps. So permitting, oversight, and coordination, oversight and management of design consultants, Ardura and HDR. Again, this program management would be our in-house, the extension of city staff. So what you would typically see from city staff is what we need from the program manager. We need someone to take the 30% design package and review it technically and make comments and provide those comments back to our consultant and do so on behalf of the city. And so that doesn't necessarily have to be the person who's sitting in City Hall most of the time. If you send that off to the back office for your subject matter experts, that's fine too. So part of it is the technical review of design submittals on behalf of the city. When we get to the point of construction, we'll need construction management and inspection. We have received various forms of funding for this project because as a municipality of a little over 17,000 people, funding $110, $115 million project is quite an undertaking. And so back in November, Bel Air went out for a bond referendum for $40 million towards drainage projects, and our residents approved it overwhelmingly. So that's $40 million of the project. We are working with Harris County Flood Control to reappropriate $15 million in bond funding that was originally marked as maintenance money. And we've been in talks with flood control to try and get the approval to migrate that $15 million to construction from maintenance. So we still have some hurdles and hoops to jump through to finally check that box, but things are looking rather positive. And then the remainder of that, originally we had about a little over $1 million in a CPF grant from Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher's office. Unfortunately, last year, because of politics, that was not received. We have put in for that same amount again this year, and it's to be determined whether that happens. But a very large push more recently was going to the state legislature and requesting a direct appropriation. And we requested $54 million, and we were successful. So half of this project will be funded via direct funding from the state. Since this is not a typical program that they do, this will be via the Texas Water Development Board. In our talks with them so far, it is not going to be viewed as a grant, but a direct appropriation. But what that looks like, we're not completely certain. So whatever paperwork follow-up needs to happen to ensure that we get that funding is part of this project in coordination with them. So any grant management, if we end up getting federal funds, there's going to be federal grant strings attached. And so making sure that we are filing things as we need to be and we're compliant, that will be part of this. And typical program scheduling, budget, contract management, all of that will be part of this. And I want to switch over. I've developed a draft timeline of what it is we're looking at and the timeline for it. We can drop this timeline in the chat. So if you want to take a better look at it after this meeting, you can mull it over. Just know, as I'm sure you do, it's tentative and it is my best crystal ball estimate, as hazy as it may be, to give an idea of what we need to do when and the loading that and the staffing that will be necessary for that. So as you can see, it's a pretty solid all of 3-year project, assuming all the stars align, the permits are issued, and there's no rain delays. So this gives us a pretty good idea of what it is we're looking to accomplish. So let me look at my notes and see what else I'm trying to go through. I think I wanted to say this at the beginning, but hopefully I'll say it now in case anybody jumped on later. Bel Air is looking for a partner in this. And I know that there's been some apprehension within the Houston Engineering Committee or community to put in for this if they don't have an existing relationship with Bel Air. And I just really want to emphasize that this is open to all. All who are qualified, this is open. There is no need for a pre-existing relationship with any staff member, council member, anything. That this is truly open. And quite frankly, the 2 engineering firms who we have an existing relationship with, HDR and Ardura, will not be putting in for this. We want a third party to come in and support the city in this endeavor and kind of really work as partners with all the entities. So I just want to really reiterate that this is open and truly the criteria in which you will be judged is there in the RFQ and clearly stated. So I want to encourage any firms who may not have an existing relationship with us, please don't let that deter your interest. So please do. And I think that's the majority of what I wanted to discuss. Also, because this project, the program management will be paid for via local funds, we do not require an MWBE requirement. So I think that might have been an initial question before it was even really asked. I want to open it up for any questions that I can help answer. And if I don't have an answer, then hopefully I can get that to you at next. Okay. All right. Let me see. Sorry, I'm not usually the one who runs the meeting, so I'm a little technologically challenged at best. Okay. Let's see. All right. So I have a question. If you've raised your hand, would you go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question?
My name is Bello Ayebamidele. I go by Ayo, I go by Bello, either one's fine. A couple questions. For the staff augmentation position, is the city looking to house all positions at the city or just the PM? And if just the PM, is the city envisioning almost 100% time dedication from that project manager, or what is the city envisioning from that PM?
Yes. I don't think we need to have everybody here because honestly, at different times, there could be a lot of people touching this project. I think for consistency, we would really like to have the project manager here at City Hall for a good bit of time. I wouldn't go so far as to say we require 40 hours a week, but it would be an ongoing conversation with either me or my capital projects and grants manager so that we know what's going on and what the workload is. And if there seems to be a lull in the project, that there's communication back and forth that we know when folks are in the office. But I do think that especially in the kickoff and early phases of this, that it is going to be a heavy lift and probably close to 40 hours. Because my project manager and I have been carrying this load and getting it as far as it has been. So it is a lot of balls in the air. And I do think for a while it would be at least 40 hours and then some supplemental from some of the back office folks to support. Does that answer your question, Bello?
Yes, it does. And as a follow-up to that, I don't mean to hog all the question time, so I'll try to ask a couple more questions and I'll let other people chime in as well too. Relative to that position, do you know when, I know at least you're trying to get the schedule sent out, when is this expected to officially start from a contracting standpoint?
Absolutely. I'm trying to push this forward as quickly as I can. It seems that our timeline from putting out an RFQ to awarding it at council is close to 3 months. Now, I realize that for maybe Houston projects or flood control, that's a very fast turnaround. For smaller municipalities, I try to make it faster. But we are looking to get somebody on board quickly. So my hope would be that we could reach an agreement, make a selection, reach an agreement, and bring that to council at the end of October, early November, with hopefully staffing and kicking off pretty quickly, because all in the meanwhile, we're handling this in-house and really trying to keep it moving, because the big key of this and the big driver for the timeline is that state appropriation. That 54 million, the whole concept was we were going to be shovel ready for this biennium. And in a lot of purposes, we are. So we have to stick by it and keep this project moving. So that is part of our big push.
Okay. And my last question is, in the RFQ, I think the city is requiring a letter of reference. Are you actually looking for a letter on the letterhead from each reference, or just the reference and the information for the reference?
Given our turnaround, we would rather not have to call references. So if you are able to get a letter so that we can review those when we review the SOQ, that's the ideal situation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey Beth, good afternoon. This is Autry. Just taking a chain from that letter of reference. Is that just if it's a team, would you accept recommendations from the team as well, or just the prime? I'm curious.
Kind of expand upon that. What do you mean by the?
So if you need recommendation letter, would
Mhm.
the prime need to provide all of it, or I always view the team as a team, the prime and a sub. So would the sub recommendations hold on to that too?
Yes, I agree. It's mainly the prime, but if you have a sub who's a heavy lift and a
Yes,
big portion of your team, then I think you should highlight your sub.
thank you.
Did I really do such a good job that I answered every question in 22 minutes?
Can I ask one? And please forgive me, you may have mentioned on earlier stages and I missed the first few minutes. Can you share any information regarding the projects that were supposed to be part of the program as far, I know you mentioned about Adura, HDR, being selected to drive them, and
Mhm.
they are somewhat at the 30%, but do you have milestones, schedules that you want to share, or any information,
Yes,
PR, design, anything like that?
we dropped the tentative timeline in the chat.
Okay.
And we talked about that the projects are widening Cypress Ditch, then demolishing the south detention ponds, and then construction of the south detention ponds. The north detention pond has an existing our existing wastewater treatment plant on it. In order for us to demolish and decommission and demolish that wastewater treatment plant, we have to connect to Houston first. So we need a lift station and force main to connect, and then we can demolish the wastewater treatment plant and construct the North Basin. So that, in a very quick resummary, those are the projects that we anticipate being part of this program. So
Okay. No,
most
thank you.
we have a 30% design on Cypress Ditch, and I believe I've slept since then. I believe 30% design on the detention ponds, although we've kind of tweaked some things since then. We are at the next council meeting entering into a contract again with HDR to do kind of the preliminary engineering for the force main and lift station to Houston, to start talks with them and establish what route they want us to take into their facility. And then anticipated kickoff of design of that in January. So that's kind of what our timeline shows. And again, the timeline is our best guess as of today. Things will always change. So I hope that answers that. Did you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Matt, I think you're next.
Yes, ma'am. Public outreach. Do y'all anticipate the consultant to provide any public outreach, or will that be coordinated through y'all's, or will there be any public outreach anticipated, period?
I think it kind of depends on the situation. If you're talking about, let's just say we're working through encroachments on the ditch. We'll need your help, and like if there's a repository of angry citizens, there needs to be a primary contact for them to contact. But as you work through that, really working closely with myself and our capital projects manager. As far as any open houses, meetings, social media pushes, we have communications in-house, and you would need to just work closely with them. If you had an idea of what specifically needed to be messaged or anything along those lines, we would work with them. Does that answer your question?
I believe so. Thank you.
Okay. So I think let me expand upon that. So for example, a different time when we would expect the program manager to handle more of the communication would be on let's just say an extrapolation of this would be a sidewalk project. If a resident were upset about the sidewalk going through their property, we would expect the program manager or project manager to kind of be that first line of defense to go figure out what the issue is, what are the problems, can that person mitigate it? And if not, if they need to raise it up, then raising it up. So that would be kind of a level of what we're looking for. Jamie, you had a question.
I just wanted to make a quick note that we have some security issues with putting the timeline in the chat. So I'm just asking if you would like a copy of the timeline, please drop your email in the chat and I can send it to you that way.
Thank you. Again, I do want to reiterate that this opportunity is open to all qualified engineering firms. And so really there is not the expectation that anybody needs an existing relationship with staff or council. This will be truly based on qualifications and the criteria set forth in the RFQ. So we look forward to reviewing endless paperwork and seeing everything that you guys have to do. We would also like we're a smaller municipality. It's 17,000 people. And so managing a project of this scale is not something we typically do. So in the portion of the submittal where you can kind of talk about approach, we are open to various approaches. So if you, given your work history and team, if you think that there's a particular approach that would be successful, we'd like to hear it. So we are open. We do not have our minds made up on exactly what this has to look like. We do know that for success in a smaller municipality, it really helps to have someone who is consistent and is here embedded with our staff to walk down to finance and talk through some issues if there's any issues, to come talk to me if we're seeing challenges. But after that, we are open and we'd like to see what successful models you guys have. Hello?
Yeah, I think I'll pause there, letting other people ask a couple questions. So I'll go again. Relative to the section C, D, E of the proposal, can you kind of shed some more light on what you're looking for relative to multi-jurisdictional projects, multi-phase programs, and large-scale projects? Because again, to be fair, there are not a lot of 17,000 community around here that do $100 million projects. So when we're looking at experience, what counts as multi-jurisdictional? Is it a project where you're having to deal with Harris County Flood Control, City of Houston, multiple entities, or again, just try to get a better definition? Because the unique situation of 17,000 people, $100 million project, and managing it, it's not something that's typical around here.
No. So what I mean by that is when we talk about multi-jurisdictional, when I told you how many partners we have and how many masters we have, right? We have to work with Houston because some of these detention ponds are in the city of Houston. They're not in the city of Bel Air. So we're going to have to work through that permitting and make sure that they're happy and content. Taking over this this drainage ditch, and so we need to make sure that their requirements are met and that they're happy and content. The drainage ditch goes under 610, so we have to make sure that TxDOT is happy and content. And so when I talk about multi-jurisdictional, I'm talking about, I want to know that you've worked through projects. They don't have to necessarily be to this scale, but projects where you've got competing demands, and how do you make those jurisdictions happy and still remember that you work for the city of Bel Air, right? Like we are the ones who are really pushing this agenda and making sure that our needs are met while also keeping everybody else happy. So when I talk about multi-jurisdictional projects, that's what I'm talking about. Do you have experience in juggling? It doesn't have to be as many as we have. it's a special dynamic. But a community working with flood control to push something forward, or anything along those lines would be helpful. And then when I'm talking about managing multi-phase programs, as I showed you with our timeline, this is multi-phase. I have to ensure that my detention basins are constructed and ready to go before I can actually finalize our drainage ditch. And by the way, I can't really start anything on the North Pond until I decommission and connect to Houston for our wastewater. So understanding the chain of events and keeping all of those rolling. So any experience with projects where you have similar things where X has to happen first, then Y, and ensuring that all the pieces are moving along and not forgotten and impacting the schedule significantly. And then when I ask experience with smaller communities delivering large scale projects, it's great if you have staff augmentation and program management with Houston or flood control, but you know what? They're a different beast. Working with a small community is a very different beast. And so understanding the smaller town politics and the fact that I'm the assistant city manager and city engineer. In small towns, we wear all the hats. And so you don't have the ability to walk down the hallway and I have a contract specialist. I have a finance person who handles contracts and POs and invoices and. So that's what I'm trying to get at is, does your firm have any experience with navigating delivering larger projects for smaller communities? And so, and it doesn't just have to be communities. It could be, MUDs or other small governmental entities that don't have the staff to deliver these kind of projects. So we're trying to figure out who's going to be the best fit for Bel Air. I know that all of you are uniquely qualified, but we're just, at the end of the day, we're trying to find the right fit for Bel Air and ensure successful delivery of this project. Any other questions? Okay, well, I hope that this meeting provided more clarity and expanded upon what was in the RFQ. If you have additional questions after the fact, you can submit them through Civcast or to our procurement, Todd Gross, and his email address is in the RFQ. And we will answer all of the questions by September 12th to ensure that everybody has enough time to submit the best qualifications. So thank you again for your time and interest. We look forward to talking to more of you in the future. So again, I'll give you another minute or two to type in your email address if you'd like Jamie to email the timeline. Again, it's tentative, but it'll give you a better understanding of what's coming online when. So, okay. Well, thank you so much. And I hope you all have a good afternoon.